Okay, what a big surprise. You can see me get started for 5 minutes.
Hello. Good day to all the audience, panelists staff from all around the world. Thank you for being here. And then welcome to the last panel discussions we have for the whole PyCon APAC 2020 online. The panel session discussion is about community building, how we're going to deal with COVID-19 as well as the future events coming. Now, with me here, there are panelists who are coming from their own community that have made great impact in their community. With me here, I have Arthur from community Kinabalu Coders. She is from Women Who Code, as well as Chunyu, or fondly known as Joe from PyCon Taiwan. Say hi. Okay. Of course, me, I'm Ivy. You have probably have heard me saying this many times. I'm the chairperson for this event. And now, before we start, I would like all the panelists to go on to introduce more about yourself, and then also talk more about your community, a little bit history about it. Probably we start with Chim.
Okay. So hi, I'm Chim. So we started Women Who Code KL in November 2014 with Jesslyn. There's another person who started with me. But the Women Who Code HQ itself started in 2011 at San Francisco. And then I just learned last year recently that KL is actually the third city in Asia that Women Who Code is at. So after New Delhi and Bangalore. So it means that we are quite fairly early when we started in Asia. Of course, today there's a lot of other networks in the cities around Asia, like Singapore, Manila, Hong Kong, Taipei, and so on, right? So in the beginning, it's mostly event-based for us. So we try to do it monthly. Then it became more like thematic kind of events in a quarter. Like this quarter we do cloud, next quarter we do big data, and so on. So the idea for us is to get more context from the tech companies, right, so that they can host us and to know who Women Who Code KL is, since we are very new at that time. So later on, we tried more study groups because we want to know our members more, like who are the people who come for the community, where are they from, what do they do, and so on. So we want to get a little bit more personal. So that was a good thing because that's when we started to find organizing people to join the organizing team. So because 2 people is not enough to run a community, to be very honest with you, we'll get tired, right? So when either one of us are not around, there will be no events, which is not what a community is supposed to be. So then we grew our organizing team from people from study groups. And then we realized that people who are more already active, who see the community as a relevant thing to begin with, the probability of them sticking with the community is much higher. So these are the people that will be a very good team member, to be honest. So what we did then, we realized like, hey, why don't we, from the study groups, we turn them into mentors. If they're committed to it, like let's say they liked it, not committed to say that, if you're committed, then you are going to be a team member. But it's more of we see that they think the community is relevant to us, to them, sorry. That's why they stick to it, and they also want to contribute. So these are the people that we were looking for, and that's how we grow our organizing team. So true enough, 100% of the people in the organizing team are from people who either mentors or people who have been sticking with us since day one. And these are the people who still are around. So that's how we started from just event-based to study groups to how we actually get people into the team and grow.
Thank you for sharing. I think next, let's move to Arthur.
Oh, okay. I'm Arthur. And I'm from Kinabalu Coders. We actually have a longer, more official name because we're a registered organization in my home state of Sabah in Malaysia. Basically, our tagline is we support open developers and maker communities in Sabah, and actually come think of it out of Sabah also, because sometimes we look next door at our neighboring state of Sarawak, or even bring some of our activities over there, and also to Kuala Lumpur and wherever we are in the world. So we technically are sort of the unofficial grassroots voices for developers. This includes Python devs, Pythonistas, as well as makers. So our organization is 100% volunteers, and that it's basically can be simply described as a broad coalition of dedicated professionals, organizers, and leads from local communities. And so we sort of comprise the tech maker, innovation, and startup ecosystem within Sabah itself. beyond this, what we actually do is we try and get technology out there through education and awareness, generally at schools, colleges, universities, polytechnics, anybody who's interested to listen. So general public, so to speak. And within us, although we are a registered organization, there's about 15, 16 separate communities, each with their own passion, so to speak. We've got a data team, game development, open source. There's also a Women Will program, which I believe was from Google, WordPress, Raspberry Pis, 3D printers, Arduinos, and so on. So it's quite a diverse set of people, so to speak. So I guess that sort of describes what Kinabalu Coders is. We're really at the grassroots. So, when all the heavy lifting is required, or you need to program something or code something, or people are looking for help from universities, occasionally they pop over to our side, and we run a local makerspace in the middle of Kota Kinabalu with the support from one of the state ministries here, the Ministry of Education and Innovation. But it remains totally independent. But they do let us use the space actually for free, which is actually really excellent, because we realize in order to grow, communities need a place to physically meet. Even though now during the time of COVID-19, it's a little bit harder and we have to stay safe and all, but a physical space still required to store all the electronic equipment and so on. So it's a good launching pad for projects and activities all across Sabah. I guess, yeah, that's a little bit about Kinabalu Coders. Back to you, Ivy.
Thank you. Yeah, it feels like you have a home to go to if you're tired of organizing event or anything. You just need to rest. It's time to go back to the home and rejuvenate a little bit. Yeah. Now let's go to Chun Yu. If you would like to play some share some slides. Go ahead. Yeah.
Sure, of course. Okay, cool. Okay. Hi everyone. I'm Jun. You can just call me Joe, and I'm the chairperson of this year's PyCon Taiwan. And let me introduce our community history first. So in the mid-90s, there are only a few Python lovers. They actually show up in the open source user groups, and they share about how to use Python to manage the servers and do some administration stuff for their machines. And then in 2000s, there are more and more Pythoners, so we start to have our Python wiki website and also host events like PYCTW. Note that it's an unofficial Python conference in 2000s. And in 2012, and we have our PyCon Taiwan. And also I joined the first PyCon Taiwan in 2012 and become a volunteer since then. So I think the first PyCon Taiwan is quite important for Taiwan's Python community, because after that we meet each other in the PyCon and we interact with each other, and we got motivation to join the local Python user group, even to found the user local group. So actually currently we have around 10 local Python user group in Taiwan now. And by the way, since we just held the PyCon Taiwan 2020, so I'm going to share my screen. It may take you 3 minutes. So let's see something cool. So okay, can you see my screen now?
Not yet.
Okay, cool.
Coming.
So this is our website, PyCon Taiwan, and we moved the PyCon to the Tainan city instead of the Taipei city. And thanks to Taiwan's government's help, especially CDC, we control the disease and the infection well, so that we can have a physical PyCon this year. So, but of course, we need to wear masks and follow all the COVID-19 guidelines. And I think the good part of the physical conference is that you can chat with the speakers, so it's quite good. And also we invite remote speakers to give us some talk. So you can see like Ari, he's in US. So you can see we are in Taiwan. We see here to listen his talk. So it's quite good experience. And attendee can always find a way to interact with the remote speakers. So that group person is me, and she is Moriata, our keynote speaker. And we also provide live broadcasts for all our attendees. So actually, they can just go to YouTube to watch the live streams. And I got a greeting video from Ivy. So this snapshot proves that I did play in my PyCon. So thank you. And you can see that we install partitions there, so that our attendee can have lunch safely. And we need sponsors' help, so you can see they have sponsor booths there, and it's a very well prepared sponsor booth. You can see they prepare speaker, even a screen to promote their service. So sponsor booths. And we have a job wall, so you can post the job information there for hiring. We have job fair for our sponsor. They can introduce their service to our attendee. We have open space. Yeah, of course. And I think the coolest part of this year's PyCon Taiwan is the community track. That is, we choose 5 topics here, and we invite local communities host to host the whole session, and we let the attendees go to the track they want to go. So we choose 5 very cool locations to have our to host our PyCon. So there are restaurants, there are galleries, stuff. So it's quite cool. And so we did do PyCon in a very cool place. And this is a group photo. So you can see we are in different place, but actually we are linked together. So it's a quite different PyCon. And I think we need, thanks to every volunteer's help, so that we can make this PyCon. I think due to the COVID-19, so it's quite challengeable for us to host, to plan, to prepare for the whole PyCon. So thank you all, and I hope that in the future you can go to Taiwan to join our PyCon. Okay, that's pretty much.
Thank you. I would love to go to Taiwan in person whenever this is over.
Yeah.
Thank you. The next question I would like to pose to everybody here is, what kind of challenge you face when we are still in like pre-COVID, and what kind of challenge you have like post-COVID? I think Joe just now have covered a little bit of this. Probably, Joe, you can continue to add on to whatever that you did not mention earlier on. Then you can move on to and she.
Okay, let me be the first one. I think before the COVID-19, the most challenging part is that the information gap issue. The reason why I moved the PyCon to Tainan City instead of the Taipei City is that because the information gap is too large. We want to close it. So that's I think that's the biggest challenge we encountered before the COVID-19. And after the COVID-19, but one thing I need to mention is that even I moved the PyCon to Tainan City, actually there are more than 60% of attendees come from Taipei. So I think it did work a little bit, but it also proves that you can host PyCon Taiwan anywhere, and people will follow you to come. So that's a good thing anyway. So we're still trying to figure out how to get it. So, and I think after the COVID-19, the most changeable thing, of course, is that some of our local Python user groups, they just stop. They don't have event. They don't host event anymore. I know some of our local user groups, they try to do to make events online. Some do that, but some are not. So I think I would say the momentum is got decreased by the COVID-19. So I think that's the most challengeable part. But the good thing is that actually PyCon Taiwan 2020 is not the first PyCon we held, not the first physical PyCon we held in the Taiwan. Actually, before, I think in August, there is a conference called Coast Cup and the CCon. They also have a physical events, and we also established a epidemic supply exchange procedure. That is, they share like the infrared forehead thermometers, so we can use that. And after PyCon Taiwan, we can deliver this equipment to other tech conferences in Taiwan. So I would say, yeah, we all work together to get through, the COVID-19. So
Thank you.
yeah, that's my part.
Thank you. I think working together for the communities is quite important. Right? Like here we have like from 3 different communities. So I think that we can help each other. And this year we're supposed to have our PyCon in Sabah, and then we do have the same question, like we want to bring the group from always in KL to different places and see how it works out. While we won't be able to test it out this year because of all these things happens, but we do hope that by next year when we actually be able to have it in Kota Kinabalu Sabah, it will actually emulate what happens in Taiwan as well. So yeah, now I would like to pass the control probably to Arthur first.
So about the challenges before and after COVID-19. So I'll just say this also generally from a general perspective. Actually, I believe Chi also raised this earlier as well. The term being scalability. So if there are only 2 people doing it and you get tired and so on. So I think the challenge now, that's one challenge that hasn't really changed. In terms of community organizing, community building, there's always the question of scale. And I'm not quite sure about everybody else here, but I'm sure although we may be possibly working in jobs that do require Python and that we ourselves are building Python at our jobs, our 9-to-5 jobs take a lot away from the community because we don't have the same kind of work-life balance as maybe in Western countries. I'm not sure about Taiwan, so maybe Taiwan can correct me if I'm wrong. But I think jobs take our time, and because it does, it also leads to a scalability issue because we also do a lot of train the trainer or mentor mentees, but it turns out that a lot of people are not available because number one, they're working, or for that matter, it's very strange when you have organizations, government organizations, private organizations, they call together, let's say, a meeting for communities, but the meeting takes place on a working day, on a business day during business hours. And you end up like, oh no, I can't attend this because, I'm working my job. So this one is like the bare bones issue usually when it comes to community. And despite the fact COVID-19, more of us are working at home, it turns out we're just as busy at home as we are going to the office, sometimes even busier than before, because one of the new challenges that we recognize here in Sabah is that apparently some businesses forget it's a Saturday or Sunday, so they start asking you to do work on Saturdays and Sundays as well, and late at night. So I think, well, where I'm coming from, it's always a question of scale. And because we are community-based, we also, not to say it's a problem, some of our groups, I mentioned just now 15, 16 groups, it might not be a Python-based group, but sometimes they go dormant. But to us, generally, we feel it's okay because we also understand, oh, you're busy, you might not be able to do this. But the sheer size and scale, meaning that there are many communities working together, I mean, they might only be tangentially related. For example, Raspberry Pi group, Arduino group. They might be different platforms, but they're coders anyway. So the thing is we tend to borrow people from different groups. So there's more mixture between these groups as well. So it's not just the Python side, but Raspberry Pi guys, they also do Python. Arduino side, they're also, who knows, maybe they're exposed to MicroPython or whatever. And I just learned something new this morning as well, Snack for embedded systems. So that might be something that we might look into as well. But I guess to answer that question, Ivy, it would be scalability. So before and after. Then the other thing is, in terms of SOP, for us, the SOP is tighter because we sometimes work with government agencies for training and so on. So when we do this, we adhere to the SOP, which is like 3 hours only. 3 hours total. So in order to do so, we also bolster this using whatever tools we have at hand, especially Google Meet and Jitsi, our 2 most useful things at this point of time. And they seem to adjust well to it, provided, of course, that the internet connection stays up and there's power, which is some sort of problem here as well. But back to you, Ivy. That one's a deeper discussion.
All right, thank you, Arthur. Chin, hopefully you have something to add to it.
Well, for me personally, my own challenge is to be constantly excited for the community. I just hear from Arthur and Joe, I think you don't have that problem. You sound very very excited from the stuff they talk about. But the thing is, that's the reason why the team needs to be more than one, yes, for sure, but more than two is not enough. You need to grow as many as possible, because one or two may not have the excitement anymore than what happens to the community. The other thing is why I think the challenge, to me, there's also no difference between pre or post COVID. This challenge is there all the time for us. And the thing is, we are easily for us to switch to online. It's just a Zoom link away, right? So there's not much difference. The challenge is always the same. So one, it's keeping the people excited about the community, what to do next, and so on. And the other thing is diversity. When I say diversity, I'm not referring to gender or race. It's diversity in terms of skill set. Like you can't have a bunch of, for us, because it's not like a Python, or in Joe's case, it's PyCon, right? It's very specific Python. But even in Python, there's like data science, networking, and so on and so forth. Your Django and so on, right? But for us, it's so wide, right? So when you code, there's so many things under, and the vision is so wide. It's like to encourage more women to be in technology. So what about people who are in product management, right? People who are in UI, UX design, so on. Like, you can't have a team that only a bunch of coders who loves to code 24/7. It's not going to reach out to these other people. So the challenge is, if I'm this type of people, I'll only attract these type of people. So that's what we noticed. So challenge is, yes, to grow the team, but grow in terms of diversity as well, the skill sets and the level of competency. It can't be everybody senior, because then who will reach out to the beginner level? It can't be all beginner, then all the seniors will not even want to come to your event because it's just too beginner level. So yeah, the challenges is so wide. And they're always going to be there pre or post COVID. Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah, I think that like from all of you, that like what I catch is like, scalability or any of those like helping out is mostly towards like human factors here rather than like technology or anything.
Oh,
And
yes.
I'd like to go deeper on like Chi Im's questions about this. Is like for this issue that like or maybe challenges that like you have about attracting people and have the wide scope diversity of the people in the group, what have you find that like you have been successfully done to achieve this? And from Arthur and Joe, do you facing the same things that like probably you have like something that you've done you think that is good that can share it out? Yeah. Any of you, if you have anything to add? Yeah.
So one thing that we did, which I am very proud of, is the culture. I think it also emulate what PyCon culture is. It's very welcoming. So it doesn't matter that you are from technical or not, background or not. We're welcoming. So as long as the study group says beginner level, it has to be really beginner friendly. So that's when we start to get people who are teachers, school teachers, people who are in marketing, people who are all sorts. I think there are some technical people, data science, and so on. So that's how we were able to tap into, these people who are from diverse background when it's beginner level. So then the challenge then is to how do we then as a community can bring them from beginner level to a bit of intermediate level, so then they can first be a role model that anybody can be able to go into technology. Number two, then we will have diversity, because these are not technical background people, and these are pharmaceutical background, or maybe from business, marketing, and so on and so forth. So the other thing that we tried was to once we get these people, or we haven't got these people, but we just talk to companies who has a product management, a good product managers that we know we like the product, and we ask them like, hey, do you have a PM who wants to give a talk? Then from there you start a new track, non-coding track, like a product management track. From there you will attract a lot of people who are from that stream. And then from there you get UI UX people, right? Because product, UI UX quite similar, quite close. And then from there you get more design track and so on and so forth. So you have to do more intentional stuff lah.
Yeah, I do agree on that. Like, for the fact that I stay with PyCon like for the second years now and helping to organize this PyCon is because I feel quite welcome in this community, not only in Malaysia, but it's like, worldwide, as per se. I started very as a programmer in the technical field, but now that like I'm moving more on documentation, it's not as technical as me, but I still feel quite welcome here. So I think that like I resonate very much with you, Chi.
It's very important. You cannot feel like you're very stupid, when you're talking to people like, oh, he is from software engineer of that company, or he's from a computer science background. Then you feel very stupid when you talk to them. But if a community has a culture that it's not, doesn't care about all this, is very welcoming, then naturally you have all sorts of people who will come and join.
Yeah, good point. Thank you. And Arthur and Joe, any of you would like to add something to this?
I can add something, but Joe,
You go first. You go first.
Okay, sure. So, how we actually, I tend to echo the thoughts of what Chi said as well. The reality is, because we have communities with Raspberry Pis, Arduinos, and so on, right? Those are technical, but we also have communities, for example, like Film Camp, because you need technology to do film production as well, right? And then things like WordPress KK, which is a local group here as well. There are two parts of that. Some guys, of course, they want to do programming for WordPress, but some guys, they want to do content management for WordPress. So these are the so-called pipelines, right? Where they come in because they go into the same makerspace, or, these groups are part of Kinabalu Coders umbrella. They say, hey, that thing over there looks interesting. Maybe I can learn something about it. And eventually, you introduce them to, let's say, hey, if you want to start programming, no, this is the programming example, but if you want to start programming, hey, there's this Python. Python's really easy. It's really elegant. And I really believe when we say it's elegant that, with just a few couple lines of code, literally, I think 3 lines of code, I can draw something on this screen using Turtle, for example, which I was explaining what we do in schools. So the idea here is that it's accessible, but we give a pathway to people that might be from other disciplines to actually go down that path of, even if they aren't going to become programmers, they're going to realize, maybe I can learn something from this. It's not like the domain of computer scientists or just this super nerd or super geek, if you get my meaning. So that's what we're trying to solve on this end. So I just wish to echo and also support what Chi said as well. So back to Joe as well.
Yeah, Joe.
Okay, I think for Python community, the good thing is that we have a lot of golden samples. Like we can look at PyCon US, we can look at like the PyLadies community. So actually, so within the Python community, actually it's more user newcomer friendly. So I think what we did is that we just provide different types of contents in the PyCon itself. Like we have different kinds of events, and we have also like tutorials for beginners, and we selectively to choose different kind of track. Like we have some talk about education, we have some talk about maybe web technology or AI, ML stuff. So I think the diversity and the content itself is quite is good enough for, I think, for newcomers. So actually for this year, the new thing I did is that I invite attendees to attend our community chat, which is actually a local community meetup. I just want that to experience and to see whether they like or not. If they like, they may get involved. If not like, so we may need to figure out to find other way to get them. So I think we just give the chance to let attendee to have.
Yeah, thank you. All right.
If I may,
Yeah.
oh, sorry. If I may I just raise one more point? I just want to go and what I realized that we don't have aspirational what I would like to state that in Sabah, right? We've seen, for example, if you're talking about inclusiveness, we see a lot of female programmers, female and male. In fact, it's evenly split, almost 50-50 coming to our makerspace. But we realize that a lot of them, they end up stuck in clerical jobs because what they're learning is not aspirational. They only, I think it was mentioned before, they only learn what they're supposed to learn to do their job, but nobody teaches them that this is something that you can go beyond. It's just not females, but males as well. So they end up doing clerical jobs. And I just wanted to go raise it because this is a challenge right now. They like what I really loved about, let's say, Joe's show about PyCon Taiwan, right, is the video doesn't tell you what to think. You look at it and it's aspirational. So that's what I mean. It gives you ideas what you can do with your PyCon Taiwan. And actually, these are the things that we should be doing for our communities and people who join. So just to add on, because it just occurred to me as well, the aspirational part. Sorry to.
All right, thank you. No problem. We have questions coming from the audience from Guy. I think it's quite relevant to what we are like talking about now. He was asking, is there any sustained partnership model with schools such that there can be a continuous stream of potential member joining our community, or the communities are more industrial focused? Yeah, I think that like it's kind of like a bit related to how we're gonna be inclusive, or maybe you have a different point of view if you don't think so, or you think that like this is a good channel as well?
Maybe I can answer. Okay, actually in Taiwan, we have different technology conference. So we have a conference called CITCOM. It's hosted by students. So I would say it's a students tech community. So and what PyCon the relationship with PyCon and the CCon is that we try to provide some resource to let them to host their conference, to grow their community. So actually we are the sponsor of CCon. So we have sponsor booths and we just give money to let them to make a good event. So I think there's also one way to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, it actually makes sense. I wanted to echo what Joe said, because if you want like youth or the school kids to learn more about this and join the community, they themselves has to be involved in it. Like Why Women Do Code, led by us ladies, because we know what's the problem. Right? So same goes with youth. If we could, I think what we can do, it's we don't know what they need, right? They would know themselves. Like we could provide resources. I'm not sure if that's even a model, but my take is the person, the community that has issue or gap in it, they are the ones that needs to be involved. Hence, it's called community. But resources wise, money or content, I suppose we can help out in that sense. Like they could ask, like, where should we get started? Then maybe we could advise in that sense. But the people who are involved are the people. It's the community themselves that are the ones that we're talking about in this case, school kids.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
I should add, this is quite interesting actually about the funding side, because I have to admit, my organization, Kinabalu Coders, we don't have money. We're absolutely poor. Not that I'm asking for cash or anything, but the reality is, for us, when we work, generally speaking, we usually have, we have a collaboration with different other NGOs, generally the ones who can actually provide sponsorship or funds, whether in cash or in kind. What we do is we provide content and subject matter, because generally what we see here in the local communities is that there's a lack of skills transfer. So we are the guys who, whether it's formally or it's self-learn, right? We are the ones who might have the working experience and the knowledge that we can impart. And the welcoming part is very important, because we make sure there are many ways to get through to us. Let's say through social media, directly through certain numbers, or we even have our own chat server running on Mattermost, so that we can, so that people can just join, talk to community members wherever they are in the state, and so on. So a lot of it hinges on that welcoming. Because from our side, for that collaboration aspect, usually a school might be one that say, hey, can we do Raspberry Pi? They might not have a lot of funds, but because we already have the equipment in hand, Raspberry Pis, and they're very cheap to acquire, is something we can quickly like pop over or do it online now with the new SOP. Or previously, we used to send 10 sets of Raspberry Pi lab kits, which are very easy to transport, immediately set up a lab so the students learn how to set up Raspberry Pis, then immediately train them how to do Scratch. And when they get bored of that, immediately go to Python. So this sort of grassroots model is also workable, even though when there's a lack of funds as well. Because once you have a Raspberry Pi, it's pretty easy to start up something already.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you. I think that one of the objectives of us having this PyCon event, right? We have been keep on talking about. We hope to have like some project that spring out of either the panel discussions or the tutorial or even out of the hackathon. This is something that we keep on telling ourselves. We want to bring up some topics that can have a continuity after this event. And probably this is some project that we can bring on and work together after the event. And probably if any other people who watching it or even later think of it's a good idea, probably there's something that is going to be worked on later. And that would be something we are very happy to know about or hear about or work on as well. Moving on to the other topic, which is quite related to this as well as per manpower and the scalability is, I know that like all of you have been working with the community for quite some time. What actually keep you going? What motivate you that like you are still here today? Yeah, I think that like in any organizations, not only in like tech related organizations, any organization for those that I have been to as well, it is a question that to think about for me.
I can start.
Yeah.
So what keeps me going is always the people. So people are always the ones that make things happen, right? So it can't be. I will probably not. How do I put it? I won't miss the work, right? It's the people. So it's the experience. So there are two prongs of it: the people, as in the team that I'm working with, and the people, as in the participants, right? So if they are very encouraging, a lot of people, then we realize that, oh, there's a lot of demand for this, or they share it as like, hey, your content is really good. I really learned something today. Or they just simply not just content, or maybe they simply come again and again because they like somehow the experience. That itself is encouraging. So it's always the people, the team that I'm working with, and the response that we get, the participants. Yeah.
Cool. Joe or Arthur, anything that like you would like to add?
It's the people. Agreed. 100%. It's the people and the place lah. We want to see everything better, right? We want to see everybody, everything gets raised up at the same time.
Yeah, if we could go to Taiwan, it'd be great. The people
Yes.
and the
So yeah, it's really just the people.
All right, Joe, you have anything else to add? Like, why, other than like the people?
May I say same here?
Yeah, no problem. Then, yeah, my next question is, what are you thinking for your future event? You think that like we can quickly go back to an in-person event, or we are going to like online event for quite some time, looking at the trend now? And my question to go with it is, if you are going for an online event, would you go for a paid event or you are going for a free event? Joe, it seems like you do have some questions in your mind, or you have an answer already in your mind. Do you want to?
Did you face issues?
I think it's quite difficult to decide whether to charge or not for online event. Actually, yeah, it's quite difficult. But thanks to Taiwan's status, so we can still have physical event. And in this year, I think the most important thing is that we try to kind of mix two kind of event. We have remote speakers. We do live. We do broadcast. So we have YouTube channel. You can watch the events for attendees. So I would say for PyCon Taiwan, we just preparing for the future. I mean, we can just we can tweak the shape of our conference to host it. So yeah. And actually, this question, I will bring into the next PyCon Taiwan's chairperson.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. Thank you. I hope that I'm not catching you like off guard about these questions. I'm bringing it out because like it's a topic that like we have been discussing like before we make a decision to go for a minimal fee. Reason being that like we would like to get a commitment from the participants. Yeah, because like we understand that like there's a lot of free event out there as well, and then some people sign up and because it's free they not actually they ended up not turning up. I'm guilty of it of some. I mean, I admit that, but I try to attend to all the event I sign up because, yeah, the organizer need to know. And I think that like that is one of the questions I bring this up. One of the reasons is because I think after PyCon US, they do have a questionnaire asking that like, if in the future the PyCon US still have to go online, would you willing to pay a nominal fee to go to it? I think that like it's a question that like all organizer is somehow they have thought about it once, like in this process. So yeah, after or Chin, do you want to like respond to this?
It's definitely worth the time. No, I mean, it's definitely worth the fee, but I'm speaking for the PyCon in this scenario in terms of the content and so on. It's really hard to judge because we wouldn't know the exact content of the event. But if you take PyCon as an example, it is certainly worth the current fee, as far as I know. It really depends on the subject matter. But anyway, that would be my comment.
Yeah, Chin, do you want to like mention anything about it?
The thing is, if you're talking about PyCon specifically, it is not going to make sense to me. This is my personal opinion. To charge mainly, it's because it's as good as watching on YouTube. It's like PyCon US; they'll put everything on YouTube anyway, right? Unless they're additional, usually physical, we charge. We understand because there's a fee that organizing team has to pay for the host, the physical. I mean, your hotel or whatever, and there's food and so on. You're paying for all this stuff. But if we switch it to online and we don't get any of those except for watching your content online, which is what I would have got if I don't go for PyCon and I wait for PyCon US or PyCon Europe to go and upload. Which if it's apple to apple like that, then if I think in that sense, it doesn't make sense that why are they charging me this time when it's nothing additional from just uploading stuff on YouTube. But if you're talking about overall, not PyCon, right? Everything else. So far, within Women Code community, we don't charge anything because also along this line, we're just thinking, what's the difference between physical and online now? What do they get out of it if we do charge them? The thing, if last time we used to care about the attendance, if we don't charge a nominal fee, they may not turn up and then the food will go to waste and so on. But in this case, we don't have to pay anything at all. So it's okay. And in fact, we can open up to 200 people because it's online anyway, right? The Zoom can take up to 500. So that's my take. Like we so far have not gone to that route of charging if it's online. Yeah.
It depends on the interaction. If there is,
Yeah, no, I mean, like for a panel session, it's always like bringing up a questions or a topic, and we invite different point of view, and that's how we gonna know that it probably from a certain point of view that we have never thought of, or in the other way, probably we should bring this to thought as well, that like how it's gonna go on for the futures.
Yeah. Unless it's a fundraising thing, like after I charge $5, I would put this $5 to something. Then maybe it's for a good cause. Yeah, I don't know. That's just yeah.
Sure.
For the record, for the record, for Kinabalu Coders side also, generally our events are always free and public, but that's because we receive usually grants from the state government specific to the events itself. We run a robotics event as well as a maker fair. It's not called maker fair; it's called Kita Bikin. It's in Malay. It means we make. So that's something that we run locally. Generally speaking, for those public events that people visit, it's great for public awareness, especially when you're talking about technology awareness in general. And of course, that's why it's a bit difficult, but depending, I suppose, on the way the event is it's very focused. It offers different kinds of interactivity. When I mention interactivity, is things like audience participation, maybe a hackathon, 101 trainings, and so on. Perhaps then it might justify a small nominal fee. So that would be a better clarification.
Yeah, I think that like Arthur did bring in a good point is that like I think funds from the authority or probably from the sponsors or from the whoever that is have ability to do so. It's quite important to run an event like this because anyhow it still needs some fees to run on. So I personally feel that like not only that some volunteers they contribute their time in making this happens or any other event by the community happens, I do come across actually have volunteers or speakers being given free tickets and they're still willing to buy the ticket just to kind of support so that like the event goes on. So I think that like, coming back to earlier on a little bit of back to the motivations to go on, I think the support from the community is not so much in monetary terms, but small gesture like this, back to the human factor, also the people, keep the people who volunteers willing to continue in organizing event like this. And this is my take for it. Yeah. Now, moving on to the next questions, I would want to get a bit of inspiration from you guys, probably that in the near future, or for you or for your community, what do you hope to bring for the community or it at large, or what do you hope to see in happening in the community, or what do you hope to get from the community? What I mean is that like what you get from the community is not so much of like what in physical you get or anything. It's more of like what is the changes or what is the things gonna happen in the community that you hope to see. Yeah, probably Joe.
I
Please,
Yeah.
Okay, you go.
Go ahead. Jean, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I said before I forget. I think we really said a few of it, a few things like this. What do I want to get out of community? Also, it's something like this, like a good chat like this. Like I would have not known, never cross paths with Joe or even Arthur or Ivy, right? So it's that's the kind of thing that you will never get from community. You will never get outside of community. The other things that I really agreed with Arthur was the aspirational part. I suppose we have thought about it, but not in the words that you have put out just now. Aspirational, like, oh yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, we always think like what the community is very touch and go. Like after this event, then what? After that event, then what? Like, are we helping the community or not? We're not sure. Like, yeah, we're gonna have this Python workshop. 3 hours. Do you think these 3 hours will help this person to get a job? No. So then why do we exist? We say we want to bring more women to technology. How are they going to do that with just a 1 hour or 2 hours stuff? It's not going to work. How do we get from A to B, even from beginner level to intermediate level? That to sum it up, that's the aspirational part that what Arthur was talking about. That's one thing that I don't know how to reach there. But each time when we try to do something, we don't want to do touch and go stuff. Hopefully, it's a series or it's a study group that will end after a certain chapters or level. In that sense, we try not to do a touch and go stuff. Yeah, that's one thing. The other thing that I wanted to see is more diversity, like I mentioned, in terms of I think that one it's already ongoing. So I'm quite happy and proud to see that when the more welcoming a community is, the more diverse it would be. Yeah, so I don't have anything additional to add, but just wanted to sum it up. Yeah.
Sure. And probably Joe or Arthur.
Okay. Actually, I still remember first time when I joined the local Python meetup. That's around 8 years ago. And I remember I was so excited and so happy that finally I can find a person to talk about Python. Because at that moment, people don't write Python, especially for the web backend stuff. So I was so happy. And even when the event ends, we stand in front of the store and to keep discussing the technology and web stuff. So that's quite good experience. So that's the thing I want to bring for the community, I hope you can try it to enjoy for newcomers. I think for existing members in the community, the most important thing is to just have fun, and also to control your community budget. I mean, don't burn out, and just do what you can do, and that will be good. So yeah, that's my part.
All right. Good.
I think it's connection. Yeah. I mean, it's the people, it's the connections that community makes. You know, 1 hour may not be good enough, but it's true that in that hour, you may meet, listen, discuss new ideas. And this is something that gets the ball rolling for other projects as they go around. So what I would like for the communities here in Sabah and beyond is actually we're already here. We're already talking with each other. And that's the absolutely amazing thing. This is in the middle of COVID-19. I mean, it isn't over for many, many countries. And we've had speakers from all across the world come to this PyCon, even though online. And we are making connections, learning new things from each other. And that is what this is all about, what makes it actually worth it. For those who can't connect, for those who can't connect yet or have difficulty connecting, this is something the developer community can do, and what us fellows in the Python what can also help with. If you permit me, just share something cute on screen for a moment.
Sure.
Don't worry, it took me one page. There you go. So this is something we recently built, and it's totally DIY using a Raspberry Pi. And yes, there's a lot of Python inside this as well. It's basically a Jitsi. It's basically a mini portable Jitsi that can be used for room conferencing. And imagine now, this is something that can be very cheaply built with consumer equipment. And this is just an example of what can be done at the community level. So now imagine somebody far, far away in a city, 200 kilometers away from KK, they say, I need some help on Raspberry Pi, on coding or something else. Previously, they're stuck. They got to go online, go on social media, search for us. But let's say if a school there just put together this as a DIY project, they can or they can actually just use a browser and go pop over to our makerspace and ask a question. Because the system, this JIT-CNC thing, is open source. You can easily build it. Actually, there was a link there just now. Maybe it can be reshared. But it also creates a permanent video conference or permanent audio conference with whichever location you install it, as long as there's an internet connection. So a lot of this is about connecting people. And the idea is by connecting, we share knowledge with each other. So that's one of the small projects we do at the community level. It costs it's very cheap, but it's something that we can easily repeat. And that's the other thing, make stuff repeatable. So not to say it becomes cookie cutter or whatever, but because it's repeatable, it can be emulated with many, many smaller communities as well. So I guess that's some of the aspiration there as well.
Cool, thank you. I think that from the audience, Ego said that it's the cool prototype. Right. And then there's questions coming from Guy. Is there a centralized platform for people to know about your community events? I think that probably you can put it in the private chat, and maybe the technical support can just help to post it in the comment. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Well, my next question is are you planning to go and do more on online event? I mean, that some of it you might have to cover it already. I think Joe did mention this, hopefully you're going still more on this in-person one, but just want to talk in the very near future. It's online event will be your focus, because I think in many places it's still quite restrictions. And then what is your next coming event, and probably you would like to do a shout out over here? Yeah, probably Chi, do you have any event that you want to do a shout out over here?
I think there's a series of Angular, Flutter, and another one I can't remember, study groups that's ongoing. It's already on our FB, so I think you can just head over to Municode KL FB page and you'll see all the events there.
Yeah, probably you can just copy it in the private chat, and then we'll just get the text up. We'll post it on the comment so everybody will be able to hit it. And Joe, your side, do you have any things like other than the next year PyCon Taiwan? Probably is there anything in between that like you would like to shout out?
Yeah, we are preparing now, and not only for next year's PyCon. We hope that the whole PyCon Taiwan, this organization, could work more efficiently and bring positive impact on local communities. So that's the things we want to do. And I think I need to shout out to Tai, the PyCon Taiwan 2019 chairperson. He helped me a lot. So he covered me a lot actually, so that I could host the whole event. So thank you, Tai.
Sure. Arthur?
I suppose this is a shout out for our Robonio event. This is the 2018 one that I'm casting. We have a robotics event. It's a community robotics event. And yes, they are fighting robots in Sabah. So the idea here is this is a shout out. It's going to be very different this year because we'll have to emulate with following the SOP, as in live streaming from people's homes. So they will have to design and so on. It's a new challenge, but it's something that we're working on it right now. We're not sure when the date is yet, but it's definitely within Q4 of this year. So generally, it always gets held around November like that. So we assume it's going to be in November. But watch out for Robonio. I guess it's coming soon. And this time, it may be more likely that there will be lots of online streaming for this competition. Shout out also, if you're interested in future events, feel free to look us up on Facebook. At Kinabalu Coders. We always update the most frequently there.
Cool. Thank you. I catch one quite important message from Joe just now is I think that like in terms of even organizing event, like having a mentor that would be able to guide you through and let you know what is the history of the community and how to go about that community would be very important as well. And I myself as well, that like being able to get connected to all people, like including Joe, yourself, is also through the seniors in the PyCon MY, like James, Hilmi, and then even that like streaming before, and then he gave an interview to try to give a shout out for the PyCon App this time as well. So I think that like, you know, the seniors in the community is always the treasure for the event to be like evergreen and continue. The continuity of it. Yeah. I bet that like you all would be agreeing to this. Kind of putting the words in your mouth now. Right. Let me just get to see the comments from the audience. All right. Okay. Mr. Valdez said that I knew that Python will be used for building the future of fighting robots. Yep.
Oh, machine learning and all.
All right. We are almost come to the end of the sessions. Just want to go like roundtable that if there is any other points or any other parting message that you would like to give to the audience before we call it today. Basically, it's like the last panel sessions already, other than the hackathon that we're going to have later on. So let's start with Chien.
You mean last word?
Yeah, like your parting message and anything that you want to add on or any
Okay.
inspiration you want to share.
Yes, there's really one last thing I wanted to talk about. I think, Joe, you mentioned about try not to burn out. So how we figure that people will burn out. So what we want, we try to remind our team is to have the kind of giving attitude, but give out of your own self-interest. So it's okay if you don't think this is going to benefit you, then don't do it. It's fine. So when you do something, when you're giving, make sure you're also benefiting. So it's a balance between give and take. That actually helps us, because the moment when we just give, but actually we have no self-interest in it, no agenda in it, in terms of learning, right? Agenda, your own agenda, as in if you don't want to learn something, you don't think that you're going to gain any skill out of this thing that you're serving the community. You're just either going to look for recognition, which if you don't get, you get very bitter and then you burn out. So it's better to think of what reward you want, which is the learning you get, the skills that you get out of it. But if you don't think it's relevant to you at all, we always ask people to tell people this within our team to say no. It's okay. We will ask you, do you want to do this? Just tell them no if you are not interested. That's how to keep the team not burn out.
Thank you. Arthur?
We rotate a lot of our teams, so we try and make sure that everybody is multidisciplined as well. And I guess the one last goal we're all trying to be is we want to make ourselves redundant in the whole scheme of our organizations so that we can sit back and relax and enjoy the show sometimes. But it's very hard.
All right, Joe.
Okay, I think to host a community event, we need volunteers to organize the event. We need sponsors and attendees to join the event. So, well, just thank you. And yeah, that's what I want to say. And thank you, Ivy, for hosting this cool panel discussion session.
Oh, I have a great team behind me, including Arthur himself. Yeah, and Kinabalu Coders give us a lot of help in that sense as well, and then a lot of other communities, not to mention only the PyCon community. Everybody is quite supportive, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank you, all the community members and all the Pythonista and all the sponsors and all the audience that have been with us for this 2 weekends. It's 4 days long. We never thought that it's going to be something that like we do, but we try our best to try something new this year. And I learned a lot along the way, and something that like I did not expect, and I'm glad that like I come to know it and come across it. And I bet that like my team member would agree that like they do learn a lot as well. So on behalf of the team member, I would like to thank you everybody, and I would like to take this opportunity and once again to thank the team member for together we make this happen. And yeah, that would be concluding this session. And yeah, bye everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
See you next year.